Hello everybody, Robert Rambles here, and welcome to Iratus, Lord of the Dead. For those of you unfamiliar with Iratus, it's a turn-based roguelike similar to Darkest Dungeon, but with many different mechanics, and also with an interesting twist. In Iratus, we play as a master necromancer who's been imprisoned deep in the earth, but now we're free, and we are out to craft an army of undead minions to get back to the surface and conquer the mortal realms. Now this will be my second playthrough, and we're going to be on the More Pain mode. We'll also be playing with alternate skins for our minions. I do have a link to the first playthrough in the description below, so if you want to see me learn the game and fail it up, as it was when it was in pre-release, when pre-release first opened up, go ahead and check that out. Otherwise, stay tuned and I will explain the basics so that even if you haven't played before or seen Iratus, it will make sense. The game is still in early access and they're constantly working on updates and pushing out new builds. And this build has some changes that I am really interested in seeing. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right in. So we're going to have stronger enemies, more elite enemies, average starting resources, fewer victory rewards, 2 starting artifacts, average vigor recovery for minions out of battle, and destroyed minions give more parts, as opposed to the cakewalk mode that we played previously. So let's go ahead and get into it.
Life is a disease. A millennium ago, a supreme necromancer was on the verge of conquering the world. But you know what they say about best laid plans. Inevitably, heroes shall emerge. So, I was made dead. Again. But what does death really mean for somebody who has mastered it, Boredom. An eternity to ponder my errors and how close I came to victory. I am a mortal. But when this world ends, even I will know oblivion. And so, I ask myself, will I be given another chance to rise before it happens? Another chance to fulfill my ambition? It seems that fate has smiled after all.
Alright, so we have our basic starting group that they give us right away. We have our Dark Knight. This is going to act as a tank and physical DPS depending on how we spend our points and what we go into. We also have our Zombie, who is in the second position here. You'll see that the abilities will tell you the yellow skulls are the positions in combat that the minion can use the ability from, and the red helmets are the positions of the enemies that the ability can hit. So you'll see Buckshot, he has to be in the first or second row, and then that can target enemies in the first or second row of the enemy formation. As we level up, we'll be able to spend points to change these abilities slightly, and to add attributes to our minions. The Skeleton, also kind of tanky. They can have kind of a tank build. We'll see what we do. And then we have a Bride of Iratus, which is our ranged DPS that we're going to start out with. Beyond these, the very first thing I want to do is probably create a few more minions. The great thing is that we get to keep unlocked any minions that you've unlocked from previous playthroughs. When you play another playthrough, you keep all the minions that you've unlocked. So we have access to some minions here that we wouldn't have had at the very beginning when we first started playing the game. I'm going to make a Blood Phantasm, and these are kind of also, they're a melee centric.
Revenge is what drives.
Similar to the Bone Golem, who is kind of beefy and can act kind of like a tank. They also have a self-heal. I'm going to craft one of these.
This is
Because
what
these are units that I
necromancer's
actually like to
war machine
use.
looks like.
And I want to start leveling them early in the game if I can. That's going to be the best bet. We're going to want to have 1 or 2 core squads that are quite a high level in order to progress. I think I'm also going to build another skeleton, and you'll see why.
Bones, bones, bones. Just so uninspired.
And then the other unique thing about Iratus as opposed to, say, Darkest Dungeon is that we can skill Iratus how we want, and we're actually going to be able to use Iratus' spells in combat to help us. So we have to think here. The first thing I'm actually going to grab is Transplantation. Not because it on itself is too great, it just allows us to replace the parts of a minion with higher quality parts later on if we want to, which is okay. But the real reason is I'm going down to grab this talent, Gray Matter. This is going to increase our chance of receiving what is called a Brain. A Brain is going to be an item that allows us to automatically level up a minion to a certain level. So if we get a level 3 Brain, we'd be able to level up a level 1 minion straight to level 3. That's going to become very important, so I want to go into that talent first. Okay, as we set out here. The kingdom had need of the vast riches buried underneath the castle, great veins of iron that promised to fuel conquest after conquest, along with ancient artifacts from a long-forgotten age. The dwarves were eager to offer their service in this project, bringing their untested mining equipment and experimental concoctions for the promise of wealth. They only needed bodies that could obey, and that the humans could provide. With the dungeons filled to the brim with both criminals and rebels, there was no shortage of slaves to work these mines. Drugs were used to keep them docile as they dug ever deeper, year after year, unaware of the mortal danger that awaited them below. And then they awoke us. And now we're trying to get out. So, one of the features that they added in a recent build, we can see right away. We now have the opportunity to preview the units that are going to be in the enemy squad before we engage with them, as long as we are adjacent to them. So once we're here, we will be able to see the rest of this squad. And this is great because it actually lets you choose which minions you want to bring along. As we go in the game, some enemies will be more or less resistant to either magic or physical attacks. And we'll want to know what we want to bring with us as far as what kind of units we're dealing with. So I think this is going to be a great feature. I'm really interested to see how it alters the decisions we make going forward. And let's go ahead and just let's jump into our first battle here with this group. So we'll select them down here, and we could build out groups and we can select them like this. We'll go with our main group, and we'll get into combat. Oh, they get to act right away. Their initiative is a higher level than ours, apparently. And so you can see what's going on here. We are both in formations of 4, and this is where the abilities come in, like I was saying, where we can only use certain abilities from certain positions. And usually a unit will be built to function well from 2 positions in the squad. For instance, the skeleton unit here can function pretty well in the 2nd or 3rd spot. Right now he's in the 3rd spot. And this is great because from here he can use Smite. This is going to deal physical damage, and it attacks twice. So it attacking twice will come in very handy later, and you'll see why once we start dealing with enemies that have block. So he can hit either enemy in the 1st or 2nd row. We're just going to DPS down the front guys, the best method to start with. Her abilities, she can do Chest Piercer, which is her main damage dealing ability. It's going to deal 19 to 23 damage right now, and a critical hit's going to deal 200%. She also has Think of Him, which is going to be a buff that increases her damage by 4. This is something we're always going to use when we're facing elites or bosses, but on these weaker guys, it's usually best to start getting DPS into them right away. So we're just going to attack. Now that he's gone into this Sinister stance, you'll see that he has a buff marker here, so Sinister Strike. At the beginning of the next turn, it will deal 195% physical damage to a random target. The Skeleton has an ability that will let him knock somebody out of a stance, but this guy might be too far back, so somebody might be taking a ton of damage at the start of this guy's next turn. Up next we have our Dark Knight. This is going to be his basic attack. It's going to deal 6 to 7 damage, so it's only 50% damage. It's also going to deal damage equal to 50% of the sum of his armor and resistances, so that'll become more powerful as we go. Stress attacks, you'll see that the enemies have the red vigor bar or health bar, and they also have this purple bar. This is going to affect their sanity, so if we reduce an enemy's sanity meter, they could have deteriorating effects. They'll miss more, they'll deal less damage. They could also completely die. So once we have drained their bar completely, they have a chance just to instantly have a heart attack basically and die. We'll play more with the stress in the next battle. I don't remember if we could click on them like that before. That's interesting. Let's just put some more damage into this guy. So yeah, if you right click on them now, you get that page with their statistics and you can read their information. And now we have our Blood Phantasm. So like I said, he's kind of, he's going to be doing physical damage from usually the second spot. He also has the ability though to deal magical damage, which is useful sometimes. So let's go ahead and do this one. This is Hate Eternal. This is going to deal 8 to 10 magic damage, and it's going to set the target on fire. And then they'll take tick damage on their next turn. Like once that ticks, I believe that's going to kill him next turn. So that could be perfect for us. Now you'll notice we switch positions here. Some enemy abilities will force us to move, and some of our own abilities will cause us to move, like you can see here. Warning shot, that below the skulls, the yellow 3 with a back arrow means that she'll move back up to 3 spots depending on where she's at. Obviously, if she's at the back row, she can't move anywhere else. And the person who gets hit will go back 1. You'll see under the red helmets, it has an arrow pointing to the right and a 1. So you also have to be aware of that. Now that we have built up Iratus' rage bar, this is the orange bar here, she has access to this, which you'll see in the bottom right of the box, costs 50 rage. This does quite a bit of damage to every enemy. Let's go ahead and I want to give you guys a look at this.
Become part of the breathless
One of the
tide.
best damaging abilities that we're going to have access to, in my opinion. This is what can knock them out of the stance, the interrupt stances. The guy who was in the stance is gone now, so we don't have to worry about that. Let's just go ahead and attack with Smite. We're getting pretty lucky that we haven't missed yet or anything. And with him, we'll just do Impale again. This is actually going to hit the first and second row, so he's actually a really good damage dealer to have with us.
One less annoyance in the world.
Oh, there we go. There's a miss. Rare from her. She actually usually doesn't miss. You'll see they all have an accuracy rating, and that's going to determine how often they miss, and usually the brides don't miss. They've also added this in the recent build, which is a tactical retreat. I'm not 100% sure. I think it allows us to pull out of battle without sacrificing our squad. There might be some other penalties, but that was not in the build that we played previously. So another addition. If we had the 60 rage, I would love to use this ability, which would all enemies lose 12 vigor, and the Dark Knight recovers that amount of vigor. I'd love to get him a heal, but we don't have the rage for it, so we'll just finish him off.
Mine is the winning side.
And then we loot all the parts. Iratus gets experience points, so when he levels, we'll have another talent point to spend for him. And these parts, of course, we're going to try to use to build more minions. And that's the basics of combat. Anybody who was out of combat receives a small heal. Let's go out now to our actual graveyard here and look at some of the buildings. So we automatically start with the mortuary, which we're going to want to use right away, because we got to get some people healed up. We can open up more slots for this later, and after the next victory, anybody in here will be healed to full. So because of that, we're going to have to reorganize our squad a little bit. We could do something like this, and now we're going to want to grab another unit. So let's see if we have the parts. And there are these other buildings. We will be getting into this. We need to build this one right away. Each minion exploring the burial ground finds a random part after victory, so that's going to allow us to build more minions. There's an arena up here we want to open. Training at the arena, minions gain +2 experience points after victory, so that will be a way to passively level up people who are minions who are not participating in battles. And you'll see here that it actually wants us to sacrifice a skeleton. So we'll actually do this, because we're going to have to anyway. And it costs 20 points out of the 52 we have.
It's almost all memories and useful skills from the subject.
And now,
new knowledge can be taught through the application of controlled combat.
yes, controlled combat, otherwise known as martial training. So we'll put him in here, and if we get a victory, he'll level up to level 2 without even having participated in battle. And we'll check out more of these in every episode as we go. There are a couple other buildings. This is for items. I don't know that I've actually ever built the Dead Lake, now that I read the description for it. Alright, so we do... Oh, this is alchemy. We won't get into that yet. We do need to craft another unit. I want to show you guys the Banshee, because I want to show you guys some stress damage and how the stress meter works. So we'll go ahead and craft ourselves a Banshee. And I did say we would be doing alternate skins. So let's go ahead and turn the alternate skins on, shall we? This button up here, which was probably always here, that I never noticed, actually allows you to switch skins. You can also rename all of your minions, which I think is pretty cool. But we're going to go with some alternate skins here. Now the Banshee, we're going to want to have her in the 3rd spot. That's where most of her abilities are going to be effective, and she's going to be dealing primarily stress damage. As you'll see, the stress damage is anything in purple, physical damage is marked in red, and magical damage is marked in that light blue. So she doesn't have any actual physical attacks, so we'll see how she works. It'll be really interesting. Let's switch her over. Oh, nice. Love the purple hair. Very cool. Alright, so this will be my first time playing with the alternate skins on. Very neat. What do you look like? Excellent, he's got like a Jason Voorhees mask on. I love it. Okay. Now, we have a couple options here. Once you go down a path, you can't backtrack, so you kind of have to look ahead and be aware of what you're getting into. This stele right here contains records of the past battles, which could be used to raise the level of minions or Iratus, so we can get ourselves a talent point, or, and which I'll probably do, is we could level up everybody in our party 1 level. So I think I'll do that, and then we're going to have a battle. Otherwise, we go here, and, you know, it's kind of tough because we can get a free minion. And a free minion at this point could be really useful. But I think I'm going to go for the experience for these guys. So we'll have to choose. All your minions gain 4 experience points, or Iratus gains 200. Now, it says all your minions gain 4 experience points. I don't remember it actually giving them 4 experience points before. Let's see what it does. Yeah, it levels them up each a level, so we got 4 levels across our group, but we don't get 4 experience points. I don't know if that's a typo or... but you'll see we do have 1 point to spend on each of our units now. So for our bone golem, the first thing I want to do is get his accuracy up. So there's 2 things we have to look at when we look at their talents. One is going to be that we're getting a bonus to one of our attributes that we can see over here. This one is accuracy. It's also going to slightly change the core ability. So the core ability deals 22 damage. The target loses 1 attack for every 10 missing vigor for 2 turns. This one is going to increase the damage. So if we go this route, which we're going to, it's going to deal 125%, so 28 damage as opposed to 22. If we were to go this way, it would just lose attack for less health missing. So instead of it needing 10 health missing, it would be 8. So these change the ability. Going this way would give us more vigor, more HP. So that's what you have to keep in mind. When I'm choosing my talents, I'm mainly looking at what attribute I want to increase. And then the change to the ability just kind of coincides with that. So let's do... He has very low accuracy and will miss a lot if we don't do this. That will get him up to 91, which is right where we want him. For the skeleton, kind of the same thing. I want to get everybody at 100% accuracy, so we'll grab this. So it changes the unassuming strike so that it ignores armor and it doesn't miss. Which makes sense when your accuracy is 100. For her, she already has 103 accuracy, so I don't have to worry about that if I don't want to. I could add attack power and dread, and that would ignore ward. So a ward is something that is going to stop a magical attack from dealing health damage, or a stress attack from getting through and affecting the stress bar. So I think if I can ignore ward, that might be okay. Or we could do this. I like that it removes all buffs from the target and just moves them around. That could cause a lot of chaos. Just like us, enemy minions need to be in a certain position to do certain abilities.
My enemies.
Let's grab that.
For a nasty surprise.
And then lastly, the bride. She has 115% accuracy, which is kind of why I was surprised she missed that shot previously. The main thing with brides is that they're squishy. But I do want to get some attack power as well. I'm going to go with the vigor.
Serve me well, my minion.
Because they die too easily, in my opinion. And I think we could probably squeeze in one more battle. It'll be probably a longer episode, but that's okay. Let's go ahead and choose our battle squad. And we can see we have a couple of different guys in this battle than we've seen previously. Different units. So we have 2 miners in this group that have a double attack. And more importantly, if you look below their stress bar, they have 1 block. So they're going to block the first physical attack that hits them. Okay, we're starting, and then we'll see why his double attack is really useful. We're starting on our Banshee, and we're going to do Soprano. This is going to deal stress damage to the entire enemy squad, and more importantly, they're all going to lose 4 attack power for the next turn. So the amount of damage they're going to put out is going to be significantly reduced, and that's why I really like to have a Banshee, especially early on. And you'll see we did damage to their stress. And maybe we'll get one of them to go insane. We'll see. We are at the level where we can do her attack. The great thing about Rose for a lady is that even when these guys have block, it's going to ignore that because it's going to be an auto crit. And crits will ignore block. So let's go ahead and get some more damage on everybody. And just use this early.
Oh, my darling, kill.
And now we're going to eat the block off of this guy. And we're going to hopefully deal a little bit of damage on top of that. So there's the block gone, and then the second swing can penetrate and deal damage. That's why I like having a skeleton around. We could do a couple things here. I can actually have him self-heal, and then he'll move back to the front, which is kind of where I want him. The other useful thing that this unit has is that it can put 2 block on a unit. I usually end up using this on my bride later on in the later game. For now, I'm going to heal. And that's going to push me forward. And then everything is right with the world. I'm going to use Smite to attack. Usually I'd want to focus fire, but I want to get this block off of him. So I'm going to use Smite on this guy. Now everyone is free game for physical attacks. No one has any more block. I'm going to keep working on their sanity with her, and I'm going to keep using Rose of a Lady with our bride. Because how can you not? Just look at that damage. It's sick. Then they get feared because of all the crits. They actually lose stress resistance because of all the crits. They get scared basically. Let's keep doing Soprano with her, lowering their attack. And here we go. We got our first insanity. So a couple of things. You can see the debuff here. Oh, shifted them a little bit. You can see their debuff. So the ones that it hit with the -4 attack, it missed these guys. And he is now insane because of how low. They'll go insane at different points. It's there's a little bit of randomness to it. So he loses 50% attack power, reduced luck to 0, loses all armor and resistance, it loses all current stacks of block and wards. So driving somebody insane is very useful. Very useful. Let's see, we're gonna do this.
This is my kind of entertainment.
And that's the end of him. Let's see, let's just keep doing smite. That's working well enough for us. I'm focusing on these guys because they actually deal a good amount of damage.
Evolution looks like.
He went insane. And you'll notice their insanity effects are not all the same. He went berserk, and his damage dealt is increased by 25, but his damage received is increased as well. So let's go ahead, see if we can't finish these guys off. They're already insane, but I wouldn't mind. Let's see. I wouldn't mind just reducing their attack. I just love keeping the debuff up on them. This is the guy who's berserk back here. I probably want to try to get him down first. 'Cause he's going to go again next. Oh, he missed. Yeah, he's going to have another turn here. Oh, not too bad.
This one voided its bowels just as it died.
Iratus says some lovely things. If we had any spells with Iratus, they would be down here. We haven't gotten any activatable spells yet, but that's where they would be. And you could have multiple pages of spells. There we go. There's those brains I was talking about. So that's really cool because we'll be able to take a minion now from level 1 right to level 3. That's pretty interesting. And we're going to do that, I think, right away. Couple of things. We're going to come out here and we'll see that this minion has now gone to level 2. Our blood phantasm. What he needs is accuracy as well, and he's only going to be able to get the 99. But I do want to get that accuracy on him. That's really important to me, that they miss as infrequently as possible. Our Dark Knight has returned to full health. We're going to pop our Bone Golem in there now. And we're going to turn on our alternate skin here, which, yeah, that's pretty rocking. And let's see. Actually, our bride got level 3. Now I'm thinking she probably could use some bonus attack. So I might come down here and grab this. So instead of her gaining 4 attack when she does think of him, she'll gain 6 attack. That makes it really valuable, and she'll passively gain 2 attack and 2 dread.
Get back to battle.
So we'll take that. That works for me. I want to get a couple things opened up. I need to have another skeleton to sacrifice, basically. We don't want to be using green parts on things we're going to sacrifice to build buildings, so we'll click on custom, and that way it'll only pull, common, and that way it'll only pull from the common items and it won't use any of our uncommons. So the uncommons are going to give them bonus stats when used to build a minion. We need at least 1, but I'm thinking we also need... Gonna need another Dark Knight. And let's make another Banshee because I'm gonna need someone to work to dig parts.
You will learn to enjoy your wretched existence.
So if we come back out here, I need to sacrifice yet another skeleton to build this. And then we also need someone to work it, so this is going to give us more parts after a successful combat. I'll let Iratus finish. He talks a lot in at length. So she's going to dig, and we're going to get more a random part after every battle. The more parts we get, the more minions we can make, so it's a win to level this up and get it going early. Over here, I always want to make sure that I have somebody in here leveling. So let's go ahead and we'll put the Dark Knight in there, or what we could do, since we said we might as well use it while it's useful, basically, because once he gains a level, it's not going to be as useful. We'll go ahead and use this now, and we'll get him some accuracy.
My enemies are in for a nasty surprise.
And we'll get him some attack. That should be pretty good. We'll leave this guy in and hope he gains a level naturally. I am going to take... you know what? Let's leave her in for now. She has a little bit of damage on her. You know what I could do? No, it's fine. We'll leave her in. It's a little risky, but I think it'll be okay. Let's turn on his alternate look, because I like it. Like it a lot. Alright, I think this is a good place to take a break. We don't have enough. I need 2 more talent points to get down here. And that's really where I want to go. So we're going to hold off on that. Alternately, we could increase our chance of receiving parts. I think we just wait, though. We'll figure it out next time. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope you enjoy the series. I hope you check out the game if you haven't already, because it's a really great one. And like I said, it's still in early access, so more updates are no doubt being worked on as we speak. So it's a lot of fun to engage with now and see kind of what changes throughout the development process. I'm enjoying it immensely. Thank you guys so much for joining me. As always, thank you for the support. I really appreciate it. Take care, and we'll see you again soon.